Welcome to this lecture. In the last lecture, we are discussing about the adapter pattern. We said that there are two main types of adapters. One is the class adapter and the other is object adapter. In the last lecture, we had discussed about the object adapter pattern with the help of an example of a set. And what will be the class structure for the adapter and the working of the adapter, even the Java code we had seen in the last lecture. Now, let us look at the same example about a set adapter using the class adapter pattern. The problem that we are discussing is that we had a old set and this is the old set which is the target. The target interface is add, delete, cardinality and contains. But we got hold of a new set which is the adaptee, the new set is the adaptee and the methods supported are insert, remove, size and contains. Now, we want the client to use the new set without any change to the client code. We had seen how to achieve this using the object adapter pattern in the last lecture. Now, let us see how to achieve the same thing using the class adapter. In the class adaptation, we have to write the adapter which implements the target interface, which is the old set interface. So, it should have the methods add, delete, cardinality and contains, and it is a subclass of the new set which is the adaptee. Being a subclass of new set, it has internally insert, remove, size and contains available due to inheritance. And therefore, when the client makes a call, let us say add, the adapter internally will call insert, because the insert method is available due to inheritance. So, that is the main idea in the class adaptation. Now, let us see the Java code for this. Here the client code, the client creates the set adapter and then we want to test it. So, t dot add. And need to have the new set which is the insert method invoked by the adapter. Now, let us see the code for the target, which has the add method. I not written the methods for all of these for simplicity, just consider the add, interface target. We have the add method here and then the adaptee, this is the adaptee, and here we have the insert method, not written the body of the method, just for our understanding, just try to simplify it. And then we write the adapter code here. The adapter extends adaptee and implements target, and we need to provide the implementation of the methods of the target. So, okay, so here it should be add. So, whenever we have the add method here, because that is the implementation, the target is implemented. So, whenever the add is called here, we will call here insert. Very simple, the class adapter and the object adapter very simple. The class adapter implements the target and extends the adaptee, and internally whenever there is a call on the target interface, it just makes the call to the corresponding adaptee interface. Now, let us see some applications of the adapter pattern. One application of the adapter pattern, which almost everybody doing a Java program needs to do sometime or other, is to use a comparator class. The comparator is used when we have, let us say, a number of students, maybe in an array list or something, and each student has a score, and we want to compare the scores of the student to be able to, let us say, sort the students in the ascending or descending list order and so on. So, we need to, the client needs to call a comparator, student comparator, which is essentially an adapter which implements the comparator interface and inherits the student, and internally it needs to provide a definition for the compare, and the definition is given here. The student comparator implements comparator, and whenever there is a compare method, it calls the finds the score of these two students and returns the difference of the score. But what about universal adaptation? If a class needs to work with many different types of servers, each having different interface, then we need a universal adapter. Having many different types of adapters will be confusing. For example, carrying a dozen adapters with you as you go to different countries can be confusing, picking out the required adapter and so on. We should have just one adapter, and that is the universal adapter. The main idea behind the universal adapter is that the adapter here, it implements the adaptee and it implements the target and has a reference to the adaptee, and we have various types of adaptee here. So, it can work with any of these different adaptees. Let us see with some concrete examples. Let us say we have a iPhone charger, and here the method supported is Apple phone charger, and then we have a charge adapter where we have the phone charge. In the universal adapter, if we have a universal charger, then we would like to have it extend the iPhone charger and then implements the charge adapter. So, all the clients can call the phone charge and then different types of chargers will be supported, the iPhone charger, Android phone charger and so on. The client just calls phone charge and the universal charger should be able to call the corresponding charger. But then this is the class adapter and we know that it can only extend one type of adaptee and therefore, it is a two phased. It can only convert the target to only one of the adaptee. This cannot be used as a universal adapter. The class adapter has at most two phases. It is not suitable to implement a universal adapter. Let us look at the object adapter. The object adapter implements the charge adapter and then it internally holds the reference to a charger. In the constructor for the universal charger, it takes as argument one of the charger and stores it internally. It may be a iPhone charger, it may be a Android charger and so on. And then once the phone charge is called, it just calls the corresponding method on the reference it internally holds. So, the adapter just calls iCharger, the method on the iCharger, and then there can be different type of charger like Android phone charger, iPhone charger and so on. The class adapter is not suitable to implement a universal adapter and we need to use a object adapter. The adapter makes two incompatible classes to work. In the class adapter, a concrete adapter class is created. It cannot adapt a class and all its subclasses, that is, we cannot have a universal adapter realized by class adapters. But the advantage of the class adapter is that since the method is available internally, we can make some change to the method, we can override the method. We need not call the same method, we can just override, but the object adapter, the advantage is that we can realize universal adapter, but then it becomes hard to override the adaptive behavior, because we just want to call that method. We do not have the method available internally to make changes to that, the data and so on of the adaptee is not available internally, and therefore, to change the behavior of the adaptee is difficult. If it is a straightforward calling the method, then okay, the object adapter works fine, but then if we have to substantially change the behavior, then the adaptee, then the object adapter cannot be used. We are just discussing about not just translating between the call from one object to another, but then modifying the behavior of the call itself. One is simple forwarding the request or renaming, and the other is having a modified operation. Typically, the adapter is not used to modify the operation, because at some point of time the functionality may diverge so much that adaptation is not the right word. It would change the behavior, it is just not adapts the interface. The object adapter, the adapter pattern makes two incompatible classes work without changing the source code of the existing client. very useful in maintaining legacy software without any changes to the aging code, because making changes to aging code is a very difficult task. The structure would have already degraded, that any change will have severe repercussions. We have now discussed about the adapter pattern. Let us look at another important design pattern, which is the bridge pattern. The bridge pattern is also called as the handle body pattern. The main idea behind the bridge pattern is that given a complex class hierarchy, we split it into two simple hierarchies. One represents the abstraction hierarchy, which is called the handle, and then the other hierarchy is called as the implementation hierarchy or the body, and the handle hierarchy will forward an invocation by the client to the body hierarchy. So, this is a complicated class structure. There is a class hierarchy, complex class hierarchy, and using the bridge pattern, we will be able to split it into two simple hierarchies, which is much more manageable. Very few classes. Observe here that just 6 classes here compared to the large number of classes here, reduces the number of classes, makes the design simple. We split a large complex hierarchy into two simple hierarchy. One we call as the abstraction hierarchy on the left side here, and the other is the implementation hierarchy, and then the abstraction hierarchy makes calls to the implementation hierarchy whenever a client makes a call to the abstraction hierarchy. It is a very useful pattern. If you use this pattern, the design can be simplified, easier to write code, easier to maintain, and so on. The abstraction hierarchy here is called as the handle, and the implementation hierarchy is called as the body of the pattern. Let us look at an example to motivate the use of the pattern. Let us say we had written a software to manage the participants of a conference. In the class diagram for the conference automation, we had the conference participants classified into different subclasses. The organizer of the conference, the special invited guests, the registrants who register for the conference, the tutorial presenters, the paper presenters. But then we found that the registrants can be three main types. One are registrants from the industry, registrants from faculty of different academic institutions, and also the students. But then later we found that a participant can be both a student and a paper presenter. A student also can present a paper, and therefore, we had this class student paper presenter, which basically features of both student and paper presenter. We also found that the organizer can also be permitted to present tutorials, and therefore, we created this class organizer tutorial presenter, who is both a tutorial presenter and an organizer. Similarly, we can have a industrial paper presenter, industrial registrant and a paper presenter. We can have a industrial registrant and tutorial presenter. And so on. So, you can see that as we make the conference more flexible, the number of classes here increases drastically. This is a natural use of inheritance. Wherever we found that there is a special thing that has been permitted, we just extend this class hierarchy. But then the class structure becomes extremely complex. Somebody trying to maintain the software will really find difficult to understand so many different classes. But using the bridge pattern, we can simplify the design. We have the conference member has several roles, can be a organizer and a tutorial presenter, can be a registrant, academic registrant and paper presenter, a student and a paper presenter, and so on. So, the conference member is one hierarchy and the conference role has another hierarchy. Now, let us see this pattern in more nitty gritty. Let us say we have a drawing package, and here one of the basic class hierarchy is the shape class. The shape is a abstract class and there are many concrete classes like circle, line, rectangle, which support the methods specified by the shape class. But then it was working fine until later we found that we have to support mobile phones also for the drawing package, and the mobile phone has a small screen and very low resolution. So, we had to maintain and said that see the line can be drawn on high resolution, that is on desktops, and on low resolution on mobile phones. Similarly, the rectangle we subclassed into high resolution rectangle class and low resolution rectangle class, and so on. So, by the maintenance to support mobile phone, we have extended the hierarchy, but then soon we had another maintenance problem. We had to support different drawing primitives for efficient display of transient views for animation. Soon we had to support animation and we had to support transient view, and therefore, again we split. One is transient view and other is the permanent view, and so on. We had to split every class here. The class hierarchy has become deeper and much more complex. Things were still working, but then we wanted to support smartphones. In the smartphone, we had a slightly different resolution requirement and we had to again split the classes. But then the design had become extremely complicated. We had to redo the design and we used the bridge pattern. In the bridge pattern, one is the abstraction side, the shapes are line, triangle, and so on. If we want to have more shapes added here, we will add it here on this side. And the other is the implementation hierarchy, where the drawing, high resolution, low resolution, transient view, low resolution transient, high resolution transient, and so on. Now, the number of classes has become very manageable and this is the bridge pattern. The main idea of the bridge pattern is that it separates the abstraction from the implementation. In a typical class hierarchy, the implementation and abstraction are there on one hierarchy and therefore, the number of classes uses almost exponentially as any maintenance problem comes in. For example, if we had to support an extra shape here like a circle, then we had to create many classes in the complex class hierarchy we are discussing, but here it just becomes one class. There it may become 20 classes just to support one different shape. So, the bridge pattern, the main idea is that we split a complex hierarchy into two hierarchy. One is the abstraction hierarchy and the other is the implementation hierarchy, and we have a bridge. It appears like a bridge. See that line? We have a bridge between the abstraction hierarchy and the implementation hierarchy. By the appearance of this pattern, which is a bridge between the abstraction and implementation hierarchy, it is called as the bridge pattern, a very useful pattern to simplify a complex class hierarchies during maintenance. Also, if we are aware of this pattern while writing our code, we will consciously try to separate out the abstraction hierarchy and the implementation hierarchy and have the bridge between them. We are almost at the end of this lecture. We will continue in the next class. Thank you.